Good afternoon and welcome to Brewing, broadcasting live on Ustream.tv as well as on demand 24/7 on Ustream.tv and YouTube.com. I'm your host, my name's Scott Leftler, and we have some fun things to talk about today. We're going to talk about useless studies. We talked about this very briefly yesterday, but we are going to talk about it again today. Useless studies, and something that I find somewhat humorous, I guess. We're going to talk about presidential politics, and particularly we're going to talk about presidential polling. And while we're talking about presidential politics, we will continue with some stream of conscious thoughts that we've had recently. I'm going to talk about a guy that said that Mitt Romney's going to win in a landslide. I'm thinking that might not happen. I don't know. And we're talking about cyber attacks and how they could trigger a quote-unquote self-defense rule in America. Tweet me live during the show at Scott Leftler, and I will get it during the live stream, and maybe I'll mention your tweet right here on air. What do we want to start? We want to start with something serious. We'll do useless studies at the end because I think that's the most fun. A new Fox News poll shows that Obama is still up in key states. This is a Fox News poll, so you know that it's already slanted to the right. So the fact that it shows that Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, I hate just saying Obama, it's rude. Just like I try and say Mitt Romney, just because saying Romney is kind of rude, in my personal opinion. But this Fox News poll shows that President Barack Obama is still up in key states, particularly Ohio, where he leads 49 to 42%, Virginia, where he leads 50 to 43%, and Florida, where he leads 49 to 44%. Now, Gallup has the pair tied at, get this, 47% each. Interesting that they would be tied at 47%, because Barack Obama's got his 47%, and apparently Mitt Romney has his 47% as well. So according to Gallup, they're tied at 47% apiece. But Fox News says, Barack Obama's out in front. Obama better be happy for that 47% since it's due to a bunch of low-life victims, according to Mitt Romney. Now, when we're talking about presidential polling, and by the way, for those of you just tuning in, today's show probably going to be a little shorter than usual. I'm in a good mood today. By the way, I have coffee again. I like coffee, don't get me wrong, but I've been really excited all week that I was going to do this show with beer. But I don't have any beer in the house. So, dude, somebody send me a beer, and I will happily drink it during the show. So today's show is going to be a little shorter and probably a little more fun than usual. I'm not going to get angry, I hope. Wayne Allen Root. Now, Wayne Allen Root is a libertarian who's previously run for president. He predicted back in May, now this is in a column written in May, that Mitt Romney would win this election in a landslide. Now, although his column is from May, my personal opinion is that it still has a very valid point. And basically, what Wayne Allen Root is saying in this column is, and this is a quote from the column actually, not one American who voted for McCain 4 years ago will switch to Obama. Not one in all the land, but many millions of people who voted for an unknown Obama 4 years ago are angry, disillusioned, turned off, or scared about the future. Voters know Obama now, and that is a bad harbinger. Sorry. All right, he's got a valid point here. I don't think that anyone that voted for John McCain will have become a Barack Obama fan over the course of the past 4 years. And I do think that there are some people that probably voted for Barack Obama 4 years ago who will now vote for Mitt Romney. What it doesn't take into account is the legions, if you will, of Republicans who are disenfranchised, I would say disenfranchised with their candidate. They don't like Mitt Romney because, as I mentioned the other day, Mitt Romney has no charisma, he has no personality, he's just not fun. So I think that there are a lot that I think that overall vote totals are going to be down. I think that not as many Republicans are going to go to the polls because, frankly, Romney sort of won that nomination by default. He certainly wasn't, ushered in under some sort of excitement. It was just sort of there. So, yeah, I'm thinking that while Root's point that no one is going to suddenly become an Obama fan that was a McCain fan, maybe a couple people, but not not dozens. I mean, honestly, it's going to be very, very, very few. Anyone who didn't vote for Barack Obama 4 years ago is still not going to like him. But I think that there will have been people that will have voted for John McCain who this year they just won't vote. Or they'll vote for someone else. Maybe they'll vote for Gary Johnson. By the way, I saw another poll. Gary Johnson is the Libertarian candidate, the person that I'm most likely to vote for, by the way. I saw a poll that had, it was actually a three-way poll, and it had Obama with 46%, Romney with 39%, and Gary Johnson with 6%. I believe that's what it was. 6% for a Libertarian candidate's not bad. I don't know who the poll was by. I tweeted it earlier. If you want to follow me on the Twitter at Scott Leftler, you can see right there who that poll was by, and you can read the details of that poll. But I find that kind of interesting, that a Libertarian candidate could possibly get 6% in this election. I don't see it happening. But there is there's no strong third party this year. As much as I would like there to be, there is no Ross Perot. There's nobody that anybody's clamoring over. So we'll see what happens when it comes down to it. But I agree with Root's point that no one's going to switch votes from Republican to Democrat. What I don't agree with, though, is that in his mind, it's clear that all the Republicans are still going to vote. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I certainly don't think that they're going to vote Republican if they do. So that's kind of interesting. By the way, there is an interesting story about how Mother Jones got the 47% story. We've talked about this the past couple days, 47%. Mitt Romney has complete disdain for anyone who isn't a millionaire, and he's not going to campaign or apparently serve, if elected, the 47% of people who get some sort of government subsidy, and particularly who don't pay income taxes. There is a great story about how Mother Jones got that, and I will tweet that later. I meant to tweet it before the show, but I was busy doing other things like my hair. You like it? Sexy. So, all right, two more things, which we don't want to go in here. It's a shorter show today than it has been. My goal, my plan is to keep the show between 10 and 15 minutes long. Yesterday, I think it was 29. That's longer than I mean for it to be. Now, over time, I obviously need more coffee. Over time, I would like the show to grow. In terms of viewership and in terms of length, I would like to do a couple hours a day. I'd like to turn this into something more than a hobby. But who knows what you're going to do? I just don't know. Back in the living room, if you can't tell, we got the girlfriend over here and the kids over there. So this is the living room. And this is how I roll. I broadcast from my living room because, you know what? I want to do a talk show, and I want you to watch. All right, let's end with something fun. So we'll do cyber attacks next. Now, the State Department said that a cyber operation, quote unquote, a cyber operation that results in death, injury, or significant destruction would probably be seen as a use of force in violation of international law. It could thereby trigger what the State Department rules refers to as a self-defense rule. Now, a cyber operation, obviously something that happens online over the computers, that results in death. Okay, death could be an act of war. Injury, weaker, but all right, I see it. Or significant destruction. My qualm with this is the use of the term significant destruction, because I have no idea what they mean by significant destruction. Significant destruction could be something really big. It could be little. Significant, there's a lot of wiggle room there. If we're talking about wasted water, is that significant destruction? If we're talking about buildings falling down, yeah, that's an act of war. But if we're talking about somebody, I don't know, doing something that annoys someone, is that significant destruction? I don't know. The fact that they use this term that I find to be loose has me a little concerned about the thing overall. I'm always worried, to me this is scary, I'm always worried that there are people in Washington who are just plain warmongers. They want to fight. That's their goal in life is to fight. They're part of the military-industrial complex, and really what they want to do is go out and destroy other countries and kill people. And they do this because they make a profit off of it. That in and of itself scares me. But the fact that the State Department is now saying that, well, you know, something that happens online could trigger a self-defense rule. That bothers me. What about Anonymous? What about that guy? I can't think of his name. But the guy that released the military information, that released any information. What if you release information online? Will that be significant destruction? Destruction, it could be loosely termed. Significant is there's a lot of wiggle room there. So the fact that we're releasing this rule that says, if somebody does anything that incurs significant destruction, we will consider that an act of war and we will attack them, that's really scary. Not nearly as scary, though, I might add. Brewing with Scott Leftler here on Ustream.tv and broadcast whenever you want it right on YouTube. Tweet me at Scott Leftler. This new thing that we can go after people for a cyber operation is in and of itself scary, but it's not nearly as scary to me as what is referred to as the Bush Doctrine. Now, you may not recall this, but when Bush was sworn into office, early on, he released a thing that is referred to in communities as the Bush Doctrine. Basically, the Bush Doctrine says that we can attack another country first if we think they might attack us. That's really scary. It's really scary to think that we might do something offensive just because we think someone might be offensive towards us. That's not something that I want out of my country, frankly. If you're out and about doing your thing and somebody punches you, look, I told my kids this, all right? If they're hanging out at school, fighting is illegal at school. You're not allowed to fight at school, which is a good rule. And anybody who gets in a fight gets suspended, expelled, whatever, because fighting is bad. What I have told my children, though, is if somebody hits them, their job is to hit that person back as hard as humanly possible to make sure that it never happens again. That to me is self-defense. That to me is preservation. And I don't care if my kids get suspended from school. I want them to stand up for themselves. I don't want them to take it because the school says so. Because you know what? The goddamn school system will not raise my children. It will not happen, period. So if my children get attacked, they have my permission as well as their mother's permission to go after that person. And don't just prevent them from hitting them. Beat the living snot out of that person. This is called the Leftler Doctrine. This is called no one is going to harass my children. And if the school wants to suspend them, so be it. If we had a policy like that, I'd be okay with it. But our policy is, according to the Bush Doctrine, if someone looks at you funny and you think they might hit you, your job is to hit them first. That doesn't fly with me. I don't like that at all. So, yeah, that's my thought on that. All right, we're going to end on somewhat of a fun note. Brewing with Scott Leftler. I found out where this cup came from. Apparently my mother watches the show. Hi, Mom. And she told me that this cup came from a friend of the family, a guy by the name of Bill McPherson, who was a friend of my dad's, gave this to my dad, apparently, after a trip in Vegas. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch earlier episodes of the show. I was drinking out of this cup, and I said, I don't know where I got this cup from. So apparently, I got this cup from my mom, who got it from my dad, who got it from his friend, Bill McPherson. So, Bill, if you're watching, thanks for the cup. All right, so we're going to end on something fun. Useless studies. Now, I mentioned the other day that there was a useless poll that shows that, 71% of people hate politicians. And I said, what is the point of a poll like that? I don't understand why anyone would spend money to find out things that we already know. Well, here is a useless study if ever I heard one. Some background. I believe, I'm going to sound crazy here, and I apologize to those of you who are going to think that I'm crazy, but I believe in a thing called the bird war. Now, the bird war basically is this theory of mine that the birds hate us for our freedoms or because we have airplanes or something. I'm not sure what it is, but I noticed when I was a talk show host at WLVL that we were constantly getting attacked by birds. Every day there was a news story about birds dive bombing people and injuring people and stealing children and all sorts of crazy shit. And so I started doing this regular feature on Reason, which was actually on WECK in Cheektowaga, with my producer at the time, Frank Miller. We started doing this regular feature called The Bird War, and we would talk about whatever bird attacked people that day, because every single day there was something. A lot of times it was in Florida, because all the crazy news comes from Florida, ladies and gentlemen. But so I follow bird attacks rather closely. In fact, I have a Google search that automatically sends me an email whenever there's a story online about a bird attacking someone. You wouldn't think that I would get many emails, but I get a few a day. It's kind of scary. We're getting attacked by birds all the time. Alfred Hitchcock, ladies and gentlemen, was a prophet, not just a movie maker. Hey, that's kind of interesting. If I just put my finger up, it's like, ooh, floating finger. Sorry. I'm very easily amused. So, yesterday, I got this email on my bird war line, if you will. It's like the bat line, like the bat symbol up in the air, except it's for the bird war. Wildlife Research, which is a magazine, in their September issue, published. Magazines publish. Radio stations broadcast. I broadcast and I publish. I do a little bit of everything, and I drink coffee. Wildlife Research, September issue, published a poll of 1,458 people that were polled online on the internets, right like you're watching right here. 1,450 people were polled online, and of those people, 39% of them reported that there was a bird/window collision in the previous year. In other words, almost 47. I'm back on 47%. Almost 40% of people, 4 in 10 people, said that at some point in the past year, a bird ran into one of their windows. Okay, so what? Well, here's the fun part of the poll. The numbers were significantly higher for those who had a bird feeder near their house. Let that sink in. In other words, if you make an effort to attract birds to your home, you are more likely to have birds run into your home. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a stupid poll. If you don't have birds, birds aren't going to run into your home. But if you have birds, if you bring birds to your home on purpose, they're more likely to run into it. This is not science. This is not a poll. This is common sense. I am fairly certain that I will not starve to death in the desert. Do you know why? Because I don't live in the desert, and I have no intention of going to the desert. If I do go to the desert, the odds of my starving to death in the desert rise exponentially. If I go swim in the ocean, the odds of me being eaten by a shark rise exponentially. But I don't go in water with fish in it. It's a personal thing. I'll explain it someday. So the odds of me being eaten by a shark are very low. The odds of me being hit by a car are somewhat high, because I walk all over the place and I ride my bike. In fact, I got yelled at by a guy today because I was riding my bike on the wrong side of the street. And you know, I have to ride with traffic. I don't like that rule. So I ride against traffic sometimes because it's easier. I like to ride on the sidewalk, but the sidewalks in this city are crap. So a lot of times I have to ride in the road, and I like to see the cars that are trying to hit me, as opposed to this guy who yelled at me, who was coming up from behind me. I'm fairly certain that if I had been on the side of the road that he wanted me to be on, he would have hit me, which is what he was angry about. Anyway, the odds of me being hit by a car are higher than me being eaten by a shark. The odds of me winning the lottery are incredibly low because I never play the lottery. I played the lottery once in my whole life. Once in my life I played the lottery. It was a couple months back because it was $18 bazillion and everybody else was playing it. And well, frankly, I'm a sheeple. Except that I'm not a sheeple. But I thought, wow, $18 bazillion, I can pay off my school loans. How great will that be? Needless to say, I didn't win, which is why I'm broadcasting this show from my living room instead of my posh new palace studio that doesn't exist because I didn't win the money. Long story short, the odds of something happening are significantly higher if you increase certain variables. If you bring more birds to your house, it's more likely that a bird's going to run into your house. If you swim in the ocean, it's more likely that you're going to get eaten by a shark. This reminds me of these statistics that 84% of accidents happen in the home, or whatever the statistic is. I don't know the number, but there's some sort of a statistic that says that, most accidents, most car accidents, most accidents like falling off of ladders and stuff, happen in the home. Well, why is that? Maybe it's because we spend most of our time at home. Think about it. You spend 8 hours a day sleeping at home, and then when you're not at work, you spend a lot of that time at home too. You spend most of your time at home, which means that most of what's going to happen to you, including accidents, happen at home. And it's not like you climb ladders when you go to the restaurant, so you're probably not going to fall off of a ladder there. So yes, of course, most accidents happen in the home. That's just stupid. We don't even need anyone to tell us that. Another one is that 92% of car accidents happen within 10 miles of your home. So and that's the thing. You've always got to wear your seatbelt because 92% of car accidents happen within 10 miles of your home. Well, that's because you spend most of your time within 10 miles of your home. You probably live within 10 miles. You probably live within 10 miles of work, so most of your driving is back and forth to work. You're going to get in a car accident on the way to work or on the way home. That's the most likely scenario. That's where you spend most of your time. The odds that you get into an accident in Arizona if you never go to Arizona are 0. The odds that you get into an accident within 10 miles of your home if you spend most of your time there, significantly higher. I don't need scientists to tell me this. Also, 76% of statistics are completely made up. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it is true. Well, I don't know what percent of statistics are made up, but I will tell you this. I made up, with the exception of the 39%. The 39% came from the poll. But the 84% of accidents happen in the home, and the 92% of car accidents happen within 10 miles of the home. I don't know what those numbers really are. I do know that there have been studies, and I do know that they're in that sort of range, but I just picked numbers out of thin air because, frankly, I don't care what the numbers are because the poll is stupid. It's not science. Anyway, you've been watching Brewing. Did I say Reason earlier? I may have said Reason earlier. The other day I almost gave out the phone number to WLVL because 3 years later, that's still the first thing in my head. I just go, and then I stop and I'm like, oh, no, don't do that. Because instead, what I want you to do rather than call, at least for now, maybe we'll call at some point later in the future, but what I want you to do for now is to tweet me at Scott Leftler. Do that during the show, do that before the show, do that after the show, do that anytime, day or night, because I don't sleep much. Last night I slept between, 3 and 8 with a reverse nap in the middle. A reverse nap is when you wake up in the middle of the night and you stay up for a while. I do that a lot because I'm getting old. It's not like I have to get up and pee or anything. Not that you care why I get up, but I do that a lot. I'll be happily sleeping and then suddenly be like, oh, let's go see what's going on. And I'll wander around the house and watch TV and then go back to bed an hour and a half later. That is a reverse nap, ladies and gentlemen. You can use that term. Anyway, it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I think we're going to a football game tomorrow. Oh, the Washington Nationals are in the playoffs. Woo! That's my baseball team. Just in case you wanted to know that for any reason. If you want to show your appreciation for the show, you can send me cash or you can send me a Washington Nationals hat. Because I used to have one, and then a girl stole it. I lose more hats that way. Fortunately, I've been in a relationship for 1.5 years now, and she has never stolen any of my hats. But she does have a ladder of mine in her trunk. That's okay, because that reduces the odds that I will fall off that ladder and hurt myself. Sorry. I like to bring things full circle. You've been watching Brewing here on Ustream.tv, or maybe you're watching it later on YouTube.com. I'll be back on Monday where we'll talk about something fun or something serious, and I might just yell! Or not. I love you all. Thank you. Coffee's empty. Gotta go.